NASA's moon nuclear race, beating China-Russia by 2030. Space domination isn't just about launching rockets. Now it's about powering the moon. NASA is making a bold, almost audacious move. It wants to install a nuclear reactor on the lunar surface before China or Russia gets there first. But here's where it gets controversial. Some see this as a new kind of space race, one centered not on prestige, but on control and resources. In a directive circulated on July 31st, NASA's temporary head, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, threw down the gauntlet. He urged agency staff to prepare for the launch of a nuclear-based power plant to the moon, ideally no later than late 2029, which marks the first quarter of fiscal year 2030. The race isn't theoretical. Chinese and Russian officials have publicized their joint ambitions to deploy a similar reactor by the mid-2030s to energize an international lunar base. Why all the rush, and why does it matter? Duffy's warning is blunt. Whichever nation plants a functional reactor on the moon first could claim a sprawling keep-out zone. That would throw a serious wrench in NASA's Artemis program, the United States' flagship lunar exploration project announced in 2017, potentially locking America out of planned landing sites and resource-rich regions. And this is the part most people miss. Moon bases powered by nuclear energy aren't just science fiction. They could define territorial boundaries and space resource management for decades. Duffy's memo lays out some specific technical targets. Within 60 days, NASA will seek industry proposals for a reactor producing at least 100 kilowatts, enough to power about 80 average U.S. homes. For perspective, a typical American nuclear power plant lights up over 700,000 homes. So the moon reactor is a minnow compared to Earth's giants, but it's a technological leap for space exploration. This project, called Fission Surface Power, relies on micro-reactor technologies. Yet here's a sticking point. No micro-reactor has ever been licensed by America's Nuclear Regulatory Commission, let alone been constructed domestically. President Donald Trump issued executive orders earlier this year, attempting to speed up small reactor development, but actual regulatory support lags behind the vision. The political backstory adds even more intrigue. Duffy, serving as acting NASA chief after Trump's original nominee was withdrawn amid a spat with Elon Musk, now pushes for this moonshot effort at a time when the agency faces looming budget cuts and lacks permanent leadership. It's a high-stakes gamble. Can NASA deliver a nuclear reactor to the moon under financial and bureaucratic pressure, with rivals hot on their heels? The mere idea of nuclear technology off-planet evokes strong opinions. Is this a necessary leap in humankind's journey beyond Earth, or a risky escalation in geopolitics and lunar territorial claims? Would you support a future where nations carve out lunar zones powered by nuclear energy? Or does this spark valid safety and sovereignty concerns? Jumping to the debate, should NASA race to nuclearize the moon, or are we overshooting our ambitions? NASA to build nuclear reactor on the moon by 2030, a game changer. Imagine a future where humanity establishes a permanent presence on the moon, powered by nuclear energy. This ambitious vision is becoming a reality as NASA accelerates its plans to construct a nuclear reactor on the lunar surface by the year 2030, as reported by various U.S. media outlets. This initiative is part of a broader strategy to create a sustainable habitat for humans on the moon, a goal that has garnered significant attention and urgency. According to Politico, the acting administrator of NASA has pointed out that both China and Russia are pursuing similar objectives, raising concerns that these nations might attempt to claim exclusive zones on the moon. This geopolitical aspect adds a layer of complexity to the already challenging endeavor of lunar exploration. However, the feasibility of achieving this goal within the proposed timeline is under scrutiny, especially in light of recent substantial budget cuts to NASA. Some experts express apprehension that the push for a lunar reactor may be more about national pride and competition than about scientific advancement. Countries like the United States, China, Russia, India, and Japan are all racing to explore the moon, with many of them planning to establish permanent human settlements. Sean Duffy, the U.S. Secretary of Transportation and acting head of NASA, emphasized the urgency of developing high-power energy solutions to support a future lunar economy and enhance national security in space. He has called for proposals from private companies to design a reactor capable of generating at least 100 kilowatts of power, which, while modest compared to the output of a typical wind turbine, is a crucial step forward. The concept of utilizing nuclear reactors on the moon is not entirely new. In 2022, NASA awarded 3 contracts worth $5 million each to companies tasked with designing a lunar reactor. Furthermore, in May of this year, China and Russia announced their plans to construct an automated nuclear power station on the moon by 2035. Many scientists agree that nuclear energy may be the most viable option for providing a consistent power supply on the lunar surface. Given the unique challenges posed by the moon's day-night cycle, which consists of 2 weeks of continuous sunlight followed by 2 weeks of darkness. Dr. Sungwoo Lim, a senior lecturer in space applications at the University of Surrey, argues that to build even a basic habitat for a small crew on the moon, a power generation capacity in the megawatt range is essential. He asserts that relying solely on solar power and batteries would not suffice to meet the energy demands of such a habitat. Nuclear energy is not just desirable, it is inevitable, he states, highlighting the necessity of this technology for future lunar missions. Lionel Wilson, a professor of Earth and Planetary Sciences at Lancaster University, believes that with sufficient funding, it is technically feasible to deploy reactors on the moon by 2030. He notes that there are already existing designs for small reactors, and the success of NASA's Artemis program, which aims to send humans and equipment to the moon, will be crucial in establishing the necessary infrastructure. Safety concerns also loom large over the prospect of launching radioactive materials into space. Dr. Simeon Barber, a planetary science expert at the Open University, points out that while there are stringent regulations governing the launch of such materials, these challenges are not insurmountable. Duffy's announcement has raised eyebrows, especially following significant budget cuts of 24% to NASA's funding for 2026, which have affected numerous scientific programs, including the Mars Sample Return mission. Some scientists worry that this push for a lunar reactor may be politically motivated, reflecting a renewed competitive spirit reminiscent of the early days of the space race. Dr. Barber expresses concern that while competition can drive innovation, a narrow focus on national interests might overshadow the broader goal of exploring the solar system. Duffy's comments regarding the potential for China and Russia to establish keep-out zones on the moon relate to the Artemis Accords, an agreement signed by 7 nations in 2020 to outline principles for cooperation on lunar exploration. These accords propose the creation of safety zones around operations and assets established on the moon, which could lead to claims of territorial ownership. Dr. Barber warns that while the idea of placing a nuclear reactor on the moon is intriguing, there are significant hurdles to overcome. NASA's Artemis 3 mission aims to land humans on the lunar surface by 2027, but it has faced numerous setbacks and uncertainties regarding funding. He cautions that without a reliable means of transporting people and equipment to the moon, the plans for a nuclear power base may ultimately be futile. The current plans seem disjointed and lack a cohesive strategy, he concludes. As we stand on the brink of a new era in space exploration, the question remains, Will the race to the moon foster collaboration and innovation, or will it devolve into a contest of national pride? What are your thoughts on the implications of establishing a nuclear reactor on the moon? Join the conversation in the comments.